Hi students, in this lesson we're going to be talking about terrestrial biomes. That's land biomes. So terrestrial biomes or land biomes are really affected by both the weather and the climate. And you're probably wondering how weather and climate are different. Weather is what the conditions are like at this exact point in time. In other words, what's the temperature? Is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it dry? What conditions are like right now? And climate is more of an average for that area. So they might say that where you live in Southern California, maybe the average temperature is 71. And maybe in the middle of summer, you're like, we're not even close to 71, but it's balanced out by the winter when maybe some days it's as low as in the 30s. So climate is what it's like overall and how much rain falls in an area, whereas weather is what it's like right at this second. So there's an important visualization here, some major basically global effects on climates that are so important. One place that was so interesting to me was Australia when I worked for the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority there. They have a lot of problems environmentally. There are a lot of pressures, and yet their country, from what I saw, was probably the greenest or most environmental country that I've gotten to research in. But you look at the conditions here, and a lot of ocean currents actually bring in stuff from all over and land in Australia. So a lot of the negative stuff that we do here maybe ends up in Australia, or that other countries do ends up in Australia. They also have an interesting wind pattern there. And then greenhouse gases, basically they come down into our earth and they bounce off inside of our earth. Well, some of it is just stopped by what's called the ozone layer, like a layer that just stops a lot of the rays, because it actually is radiation. And so a lot of that is stopped by the ozone. But the ozone, there's a giant ozone hole over the country of Australia, unfortunately. And that's because, again, because of these wind patterns and ocean currents and things like that have created this hole in ozone, because the CO2 actually eats through ozone. It actually eats it and dissolves it. So that has made this ozone hole over Australia, where they kids have to wear a hat out every time they go out to recess and things like that. So it's interesting for them, and it's really hard for them because they really feel the effects of basically CO2 increase in the air. So there's a lot of really, really cool biomes on this earth, and I love it. It's just so amazing. I think it's such a gift. It's just so awesome. So one of them is a tundra. A tundra is cool to me because it literally has frozen dirt called permafrost. And so big trees can't even grow because they don't have a place for their roots. So only little shrubs and grasses, and yet cool animals like caribou and wolves still get to live there. Then here's another one. This is called a boreal forest. A boreal forest is just below this, where the ground isn't completely frozen. So you have trees, and you can get awesome animals like birds, moose, beavers, deer, wolverines, just amazing stuff. And not all in the same place. It can be different in other places. But it can have surprisingly long, dry winters. Well, if this place is covered in snow, how do you call that dry? Well, it's considered dry because the plants can't uptake water when it's frozen. So it's considered dry until the springtime when it melts and can get that water in the leaves. The next one that we're going to talk about is a temperate forest. Now, we have some of these in Southern California, but these basically have broadleaf leaves. They usually lose their leaves at different points. They also have a dry season in a temperate forest. And look at all these gorgeous colors that it makes as it loses its different parts of its leaves, and we'll talk about that later as it changes. It's so cool. It's so gorgeous. Okay. So the next one, this one's kind of by us in Southern California. This is a temperate woodland or shrubland. We a lot of times call it a chaparral, but basically it can be very, very dry. There's trees, but usually, it depends. They'll get bigger or smaller depending on where you are. But we can have coyotes, bobcats, cougars, things like that. This is a really pretty area, but can have dry, long seasons of time. The next one is the temperate grassland. It has gorgeous, usually flowers and grasses, and it was really easy as pioneers moved across the United States to obviously settle in a grassland because it's just nice and flat and gorgeous like a little meadow. There's also abundant in animals that you could kill and eat, and so what a great place to live. So this got settled and used up a lot in the United States, but there is some left. There's some left, and it's still pretty. Then there's desert, full-on desert. And some of you in Southern California do live in a desert. I think it's something like less than 11 inches of rain or something per year. But basically, more rain is actually sucked up off the ground than actually will land on the ground. And basically, that's kind of impossible. So, because however much rain there is, you obviously can't suck more of it out. But what it's trying to say in your book, with the annual rate of evaporation exceeding precipitation, is pretty much as soon as it rains, it's basically evaporated off. So you have to have some pretty hardy things here, like cactus. Cactus doesn't even, it has leaves, but its leaves are so small and skinny that it's thorns. So it's actually developed thorns out of its leaves over time, which basically are very pokey to keep things off of it, and then also to stop as much transpiration, water leaving it as possible. This one is gorgeous. I'd love to go here someday. Tropical savanna. We do not have these here in the United States, but they have herds of huge animals. You can have lions, you can have cheetahs, zebra, wildebeest, you can have gazelles, you can have amazing animals that move in these huge herds, follow the grass over time so that they can eat. It's beautiful. Okay, tropical seasonal forest. I have worked in one of these in Borneo, and basically this can have a time period where it does lose its leaves. It can have a dry season. It does have a dry season, but you can have elephants, tigers, koalas. You can have, in one little island like Borneo, you can have 15 species of primates and see them all outside your door. It's amazing in a place like that. Okay, a tropical rainforest is one that is hot, wet, humid, and very diverse. The most diverse place in the world is in a tropical rainforest. The second is an estuary in the water, but on land and anywhere. This one wins overall, is a tropical rainforest for the most diversity anywhere. There's also other biomes that you can have in mountains and in polar regions. So for your biome project, you are going to basically pick a biome out of this or out of the next section with some water ecosystems, and you're going to make a poster that basically convinces people to want to go there. So then once you post it, it can be hand drawn. It can be done as like a Google Doc that you add pictures to. You can do it however you want, but basically you're trying to convince people in one page to go visit your spot. So there's some directions for you on there, but you're not going to answer any of the end of the section questions here. You're just going to make that poster and make sure to cite a couple sources. But if you do not, or if you end up convincing me that that's the next place that I need to go visit, because every year I pick some place to go research in, if that's the next place, then I will actually give you extra credit. So convince me that I need to go to that amazing habitat. Anyways, take care, guys, and have a super day.